Germans! I will give you the greatest games on earth!
Show them you can fight or die trying.
From the producers of 300.
A 4-horse race is a suicide.
Let the games begin!
Starring Oscar winner Anthony Hopkins.
Behold, this arena will be built for Rome.
Rise or die.
Those About to Die. A new Peacock original series streaming July 18th.
On the afternoon of September 18, 2018, on the last day of summer, an EF3 tornado touched down in Dunrobin, Ontario. It was one of 6 tornadoes to hit the province that day, and the most powerful in eastern Ontario in over 100 years. Hi, I'm Chris May, writer, producer, and host of This Day in Weather History, now in its 2nd year from the Weather Network in Canada. As rare as the events of this story were, it still happened, and not that long ago either. September 21st, 2018, This Day in Weather History. Normally, around this time of year, we have wrapped up the frequency of tornadoes and we are all eyes on peak hurricane season. And that's obvious given that I have had a lot of hurricane stories this month, where June was almost all tornado stories here on This Day in Weather History. There really is no such thing as a hard and fast season. I mean, after all, nature will do what nature does, but there are generally accepted trends, and this is too late in the calendar for tornadoes to trend. Environment Canada calls the tornado that touched down in Dunrobin on September 21st of 2018 historic. It was the first time since 1898 that an F3 or stronger tornado touched down anywhere in Canada this late in the year. And because it was packing maximum sustained winds of up to 265 kilometers per hour, this was the most powerful tornado for eastern Ontario since 1902, when an F4 tornado struck Chesterville, followed the next year by an F3 that hit Rockland in 1903. But this one was a 2-day outbreak of tornadoes that affected the Great Lakes region of the United States on September 20th and the Ottawa region in Canada on the 21st. In that melee, 37 tornadoes were confirmed, including that what is termed long-tracked EF3 that traveled for a mind-bending 80 kilometers or 50 miles. That is where you get long-track from. And it went from near Dunrobin, Ontario to Gatineau, Quebec. The Dunrobin-Gatineau tornado lasted 40 minutes while destroying or severely damaging more than 50 homes, taking down thousands of trees and hydro poles in its wake as well. 430,000 people were left without power, and some of them for days. Then, less than an hour later, there came another line of thunderstorms that crossed the Ottawa Valley, dropping what would be an EF2 tornado that struck Ottawa from Nepean to Gloucester. The Canadian day of the tornado outbreak, September 21st, 2018, This Day in Weather History, also included 4 other EF1 tornadoes with winds registered between 138 kilometers per hour and 177 kilometers per hour, 1 at Calabogie in Ontario and 3 in Quebec. Now, just as a footnote, because I did open with this being a 2-day event, and I already had a September 20th edition of this podcast, I still want to reflect back on what happened on the American day of this outbreak. On September 20th, several tornadoes touched down in the northern plains state of Minnesota. Among these was a high-end EF2 that caused major damage in Morristown, Minnesota. Just a reminder, September is normally earmarked as the month where hurricane season peaks. For example, while this rare tornado outbreak was ripping through Minnesota, Ontario, and Quebec, in the Atlantic, they were having a heck of a time with more tropical weather events. September of 2018 was slammed by Category 4 Hurricane Florence, Tropical Storm Gordon, Category 2 Hurricane Helene, Category 1 Hurricane Isaac, Tropical Storm Joyce, Tropical Depression 11, Tropical Storm Kirk, and Category 1 Hurricane Leslie. As a matter of fact, it was the first time in 10 years that 4 named storms were active at the same time, with Florence, Helene, Isaac, and Joyce, and all in the very same month of September as the tornadoes were that also hit today. Tornadoes are a precision killer. They can strip down one half of a building while leaving the books on the shelves in the other half still standing. Now, I know this because I've seen this a few times with my own eyes. Hurricanes, by contrast, are more of a big, giant, lumbering, overwhelming menace that just covers hundreds of miles at one time, devastating it with any number of weapons. You've got wind, storm surge, flooding rain, and occasionally they will spawn tornadoes. And with that, we have come full circle. Tornadoes in September are rare, but those that get to major status, EF3 or greater, on or after the first day of the fall season, they are quite frankly historical. And that is why we look back to the EF3 that touched down and really went for a ride through eastern Ontario. It was the Dunrobin-Gatineau tornado of September 21st, 2018, this day in weather history. Tomorrow is September the 22nd. Now, you knew that once we got to the year 2021 and you look back at the year of crazy weather stories that happened in the year 2020, that we would come back around again to tell those stories on this podcast. And the wildfire seasons in western United States are going to be the topic of conversation again next year as well. But for tomorrow, we're going to look back at the California wildfires of 2020. On this day in weather history with me, your host, Chris May.